Next, we're going to introduce you to a freshman Republican, Nan Hayworth. She is a Republican from New York, new Congresswoman. We'll be talking with her in just a minute after this news update from C-SPAN Radio.
Washington Journal continues.
Well, we're pleased to welcome for the first time to the Washington Journal table Representative Nan Hayworth. She is a Republican from New York. She serves on the Financial Services Committee. Congresswoman, if you would start by telling us about your district. What do you represent?
District 19 is the Hudson Valley of New York. So we start about 45 minutes to an hour north of New York City, of Manhattan, and extend up through the town of Poughkeepsie in southern Dutchess County, and then we cross the river, have most of Orange County and a little bit of Rockland County. So it's a beautiful district, about 1,500 square miles, and it's a diverse district. We run from suburbs through exurbs through farm country.
How would you describe the economic condition of your district at this point?
We have a lot of talent in our district. We have a lot of people who work very hard. We have some corporate headquarters, part of PepsiCo, IBM, among the biggest enterprises. We have a lot of small businesses. We have farms. We have major hospitals. We have some colleges. So it's an economy that, relative to the rest of the country, statistically is doing somewhat better, which is heartening, but we're not doing as well as we could be or should be.
You serve on the Financial Services Committee, and today Treasury Secretary Geithner is coming to Capitol Hill to talk to the House freshmen about debt ceiling.
Yes.
What are you open to hearing from him?
That he is sincere about working constructively with the House majority on realistically tackling the long-term challenges that we face as we consider this debt ceiling. We have to assure that we're responsibly dealing with the debts that we've accumulated. That's very true. But we also have to send a clear message through action that we are taking on fiscal responsibility and discipline for the future, because if not, there will be no investor confidence in our country's bonds, and rightly so.
Do you believe that deficit reduction must be attached to a debt ceiling increase?
Unequivocally, yes, I do, sir.
Why?
Because if not, then what we are saying is that we cannot tackle the issue that will surely come around yet again to harm our potential when we devote ever-increasing portions of the federal budget. Now it's about 10% of the budget just goes to debt service. When we continue to add to the principal on that debt and we do not stop accumulating debt and to start to pay down the debt, then clearly the amount of productive work that we can do with precious tax dollars declines. So after a while, in fact, it's starting to happen now, confidence that we're actually going to be able to grow our economy and be a great destination for investment, for growth, for job creation, is going to wane. There are lots of opportunities around the world, so we very much need to get that under control.
How would you describe the meeting that the Republicans had with President Obama yesterday and your personal reflections?
The members of the Republican Conference, our leadership, and several members who spoke in behalf of the concerns that all of us share were forthright, courteous, but unequivocal about what we need to work on together with the administration and with President Obama. And President Obama did listen respectfully. I think that there was an exchange of views along the lines that one would expect, given that we are all endeavoring not to inflame tensions, but to move along in a process of solving problems. And that's our emphasis. We are here, we're hired in November to solve problems that the United States clearly faces.
Our last guest, Barbara Lee, a Democrat of California, 13 years in the Congress, used the term or said several times that the Republicans want to dismantle Medicare. You just had a special election up in New York. The Republicans lost a long-time Republican seat. Is Medicare going to be an issue that hurts the Republicans in 2012?
It is not going to hurt the Republicans in 2012. If anything, in fact, the headline really should be, and this is what I've been sharing with the constituents in our district, and they have completely understood, the Affordable Care Act ends Medicare as our seniors know it through the Independent Payment Advisory Board, which is designed to reduce reimbursements to providers. That's how it will fulfill its mission, its stated mission, of reducing spending on Medicare. Well, that will, unfortunately for our seniors, limit their access to care immediately, because, and I can tell you as a physician, as a doctor, and as an ophthalmologist who practiced for 16 years, and I cherished my patients. My Medicare patients, ones with whom we had the greatest challenges in terms of actually trying to cover the expenses of running a medical practice with the reimbursements that Medicare provided. And if those reimbursements decline, which will be inevitable under the Independent Payment Advisory Board, a lot of doctors are going to find that, regrettably, they're not going to be able to take on more Medicare patients or even potentially see the ones they have. 12% of doctors across the country now have said they can't afford to see Medicare patients. So the Affordable Care Act that was passed by the 111th Congress and signed into law by President Obama ends Medicare as we know it. What the Republicans have done in our majority passing the Path to Prosperity budget in April was to say we understand that we have an obligation to our seniors that we must honor, and we will do so. And we will also put mechanisms in place that will assure that we can effectively administer Medicare in the future.
Representative Nan Hayworth, a freshman from New York, is our guest, and as she mentioned, she is also Dr. Hayworth, an ophthalmologist and physician. She graduated from Cornell University Medical College, graduated at the top of her class, undergrad from Princeton University, married to Dr. Scott Hayworth, 2 kids,
yes,
and a freshman. And who did you beat, and what was the percentage?
John Hall, and it was 53 to 47%.
And prior to Representative Hall holding that seat, had it been a Republican seat, a Democratic seat, or back and forth?
Sue Kelly was my predecessor, and she had served for 6 terms, and John Hall had served for 2 terms before November of 2010. And it's been a Republican seat for most of the past century. I will say that the model has changed among Republicans as well, and we are more fiscally conservative in this freshman class than has been the case for previous generations of Republicans even, because of the circumstances that we face in terms of deficit and debt.
We're going to take some calls for our guest, Omaha, Nebraska. Jim, a Democrat, you are first up. Hi.
Hi. I wanted to comment on the economic impact that you guys were talking about and Medicare and all the other things, you know, like the unemployment, what you guys are talking about. You know, the Republicans and the Democrats all going against each other. I think that everybody needs to pull together, and they need to start helping each other, and this economy will come back. It's been this way for 15 or 20 years now.
Nan Hayworth, any response for that caller?
Jim, I agree with you. We do need to work together, and I'll go even further. I know that all of our colleagues in the House of Representatives, all 435 of us, have the goal of making sure that every American has the best opportunities and can live his or her best life in the most extraordinary and wonderful country in history. Where we differ and where the challenges come in is that Republicans, by and large, hold that we achieve that goal by having the federal government have a light hand on our economy and on our lives. And our colleagues on the other side of the aisle, so to speak, tend to feel that in fact, the federal government should be doing more in the economy. The election of 2010 told us that Americans across the country felt that they needed to have a federal government that weighed less heavily upon them, that regulated less, that taxed less, that took less from them, that didn't punish those who create jobs. Our small businesses create the majority of jobs in this country, and they feel disproportionately the burden of regulations, an avalanche of new regulations put on them by the Affordable Care Act and by the financial regulatory law. So we were hired to reduce those burdens in the new House majority, and that's what we're working to do, because we really do care very much about making sure that everybody has the opportunity and the jobs. 14 million Americans need jobs. We've seen the economic indicators this week. They're not promising because the federal government has continued to threaten its public with more burdens and more taxes and more ways in which it will take money out of your pocket, working capital out of your pocket, out of the citizen economy. So that's what we're working to change, and I think we're going to bring our Democratic colleagues along as we work together, because there's a reasoned argument to be made. It does not have to be contentious.
Next call for Representative Nan Hayworth comes from Wappinger Falls, New York. Is that in your district?
That's in our district.
Barbara is a Republican. Hi, Barbara.
Oh, good morning. Thank you for taking my call. Good morning, Congresswoman. It's nice to see you today.
Good morning, Barbara. Thank you.
Okay. My question has to do with your meeting with Secretary Geithner. You're quoted on Political.com as saying that he has to make clear to the administration that major spending cuts are needed. So just like to know, have you and your Republican colleagues seen any plans out of the White House? And if so, do you have any faith in those plans? And how do you think you can work together to achieve some debt relief?
Barbara, we haven't seen specifics, as you know. The president did present a budget that was resoundingly rejected by the Senate. He received 0 votes in the Senate, which was rather remarkable, and the budget proposal, the Path of Prosperity budget that was chaired by Paul Ryan, as we all know, received 47 votes. So that will tell you that even among Democrats, the president's budget proposal, at least in the Senate, was not viewed positively, because he simply did not take on the real issue that we have, which is that the federal government is spending money that it doesn't take in. 42 cents of every dollar our federal government spends right now is borrowed, and it's borrowed from you and from your children and from your grandchildren. So we need to see a proposal that actually boldly cuts federal spending now. We've proposed in the Path to Prosperity budget that spending return to 2008 levels. And that's a fair and equitable way to deal with discretionary spending. We have proposed changes in the way Medicaid is administered so that our states become more responsible about waste, fraud, and abuse, which is unfortunately quite widespread in a lot of states. We have proposed, as everyone knows, that we take on the issue of securing Medicare for the future. And even with all of those moves, we have made clear that the budget will only gradually come into balance. 2037 actually is roughly when we project that the federal budget, including debt service, which is a growing piece, will come into balance, when we actually won't spend more than the federal government takes in. And the idea is that we accomplish the obligations, we fulfill the obligations of Medicare and Social Security, that we move forward in making sure that Americans can rely on themselves and on our government in the entitlement programs that they're accustomed to for the future, and that we grow the economy and create jobs in the citizen economy, in the private sector, which is where jobs actually are created.